Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Eeyore, and this is Kingdom Death Monster. We are now entering year 5 of the settlement phase. But quickly, I'll go ahead and introduce our newest characters. We have Yomu, um, Linasa, Lyrica, and Merlin. I'll probably get that mixed up every freaking time because I never memorize the names of the Prism River sisters. But we defeated the Butcher. One thing I wanted to point out, just mention real quick about the Butcher is he has one of his attacks is like a really powerful flurry of attacks that can get pretty ridiculous. But if you somehow survive it, you can potentially learn a secret fighting art, and those tend to be rather powerful. But enough of that for right now. Settlement phase. Heal injuries, blah blah blah. We get endeavors. Kokuma has analyze, and Rumia doesn't have anything. Okay, so for right now we're only going to get 2 endeavors, and once we update the death count, we'll get up to 6. All right, but first we need to go ahead and draw a settlement event. So let's roll our 1d20 and see who gets murdered. Called it! I freaking called it! 12 is murder. Someone in the settlement has been murdered. The survivor with the highest hunt XP is the victim. They are dead. That's it. Alright, so let's find out who has the highest hunt XP. I believe it's Remilia. Oh, it's a tie. It is a tie. Kokuma and Remilia have the highest hunt XP. It's a tie. I can choose. Yeah. So I can pick that. But also, the murderer is the person with the highest insanity. Highest insanity, right now, is, I think, also a tie. I'm pretty sure it's a tie. Yeah, definitely. It's a tie between 2 unnamed males, Flandra and Alice. So let's go ahead and handle. I have to pick who dies. Kokuma is maxed out on White Secret, all that good stuff. She is pretty close to getting Specialist with Sword. She has been Immortal on Exotic and all that good stuff. But Remilia has Strategist, which is super useful, and Mighty Strike, and she's a Tinker. And I think that overall, that's much more useful compared to Kokuma, which it sucks. I mean, Kokuma would have been great, especially for this upcoming hunt where we have no armor. Well, actually, sorry. If I pick Remilia, Kokuma is the murderer because she has the highest insanity. If I pick Kokuma as the person that gets murdered, it's going to be a 4-way tie for who the actual murderer is. Now let's go ahead and just review what happens because I need to make a decision here. Now, thankfully, we have. If you don't have a society principle, it gets pretty brutal. But with Accept the Darkness, we can actually get some pretty decent stuff. So it's either the murderer gets slaughtered and everyone gets empowered. The murderer becomes the undisputed boss of the settlement and gains 300 XP. Each player selects 1 fighting art and 1 disorder. The murderer must take all of them and replacing any existing fighting arts or disorders they have. That's pretty that in that aspect that can make Kokuma pretty insane. But this benefit wouldn't really help that much. So I'll tell you what, Kokuma's gonna die. That she's going to sacrifice herself to ensure that Remilia lives. This was actually one of the concerns I had about Remilia because she was going to be the target for murder because I knew it was going to come eventually. But so okay. So that will give us another endeavor, for one thing. Next, I need to pick a murderer. I'm going to pick Flandra, because that's really probably the most fitting thing, to be honest. So we're going to pick Flandra as our murderer, and see what happens. 9. The murderer becomes the undisputed boss of the settlement and gains 300 XP. Each player selects 1 fighting art and 1 disorder. The murderer must take all of them. It says select 1 fighting art and 1 disorder. So I know exactly what I'm going to give her. So I haven't made a character sheet for her yet. It specifically says select. It doesn't say draw. Actually, sorry. Each player selects 1 fighting art and 1... I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to look this up because that is actually really confusing. For one thing, it doesn't make any sense because you can't have 4 fighting arts and 4 disorders. So if you had a 4-player game, well, actually, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and look this up, make sure it's legit, and if it is, I'm gonna pick Insanity as my freaking disorder. So be right back. Okay, it seems to be exactly that. So Flandre, you get 300 XP, which is gonna make you trigger an age event. Also, you do start with 10 Insanity and 1 Understanding. For her disorder, I pick Immortal. And for her fighting art, because this is just a 1-player game, so it's just going to be me picking, so I don't have to worry about any overlap or anything like that. So Kingdom Death, alright. And then the next thing, we need to pick a fighting art. And the question is what fighting art should I go for? There's Monster Claw style. Leader, whenever you encourage. Double dash. Orator of Death. That is actually pretty good. Orator of Death. There's Berserker. This will ensure that I get frenzied every freaking time. That's actually pretty... Berserker is kind of interesting, but you can kind of get the same thing with an item. Extra Sense allows you to dodge additional times. That's not going to help with Insanity. Last Man Standing, definitely not. Mighty Strike is always kind of a good default. On a perfect hit, Combo Master. Crazed, on a perfect hit, gain 1 Insanity. That's also actually pretty good. It's actually pretty nice, actually. Tough is helps you survive severe injuries a lot better. So there's a good variety here. I'm kind of torn between Combo Master and Crazed. Crazed means every perfect hit I would get +1 Insanity, while Combo Master would give me an additional hit every perfect hit, or at least make an additional attack roll. Let's go Crazed. I think that'll probably fit her the best. So Flandre, you want to get Crazed as your fighting art. Okay, and I think that's the gist of it. Anything else I need to point out? Nope, that is it. The murderer has become the undisputed boss of the settlement. Alright, good job, Flandre. Alright, so next we just need to get her killed, because that's how this game works. Alright, well, actually next we need to do the age event, so let's go knock that out. 2d10. That's a 9. That's probably another fighting art. Yep, it's another random fighting art. So we'll do a 1d20. That is 13. 13 is Orator of Death. That was the other one I was considering. Holy cow. Alright, so Orator of Death is something we could have gotten from rolling really good for the Screaming Antelope story quest. And what this does is once per showdown, you can spend an action to give everyone that's not deaf +2 insanity. And if she ever dies, everyone gets encouraged, which that's not really that big of a deal. The main thing is you can get some insanity, which is always good. All right. That takes care of all of that. Next, we actually update our freaking death count. So we had 2 people die in a showdown, so that's 4 right there, and then we had 1 person die from a during the settlement phase. So that gets us a total of 7 endeavors. And I think that's about now the only thing we have left is the story event, I believe. Yeah, we need to update the timeline and trigger all of that. Also, I need to update the survivor count. It's now down to 14, which is okay. I could have sacrificed I could have picked a male to be the murderer, but honestly, it has to be Flandra, and I haven't been updating this. My apologies. It should be year 5. Okay, so year 5. Let's pull up the timeline. Hands of Heat. So let's pull that up. Here's the image. Good stuff. The Mystery of the Lantern's Glow. Now, if we already have the lantern oven, we're supposed to skip this event and go straight into lantern branding, and otherwise we continue with Hands of Heat. I'm going to go ahead and point out why I kind of skipped it. So what would happen initially would be on a lucky day, a clumsy accident knocks a lantern free from the towering lantern horde. A sudden flash of heat bathes the survivors as the lantern crashes to the ground. Now shattered, the lantern light dies, but the seed of an idea begins to grow. What this does is you would nominate a survivor and then roll 1d10. All of these results will always get you the lantern oven for free. I think the reason they put it on this particular year is because the butcher can potentially wreck you. One way or another, you're usually not going to have enough resources to do an innovation after fighting a butcher. So this would ensure that you would get one this year, but we kind of bypassed that. But the main reason I generally try to skip this is there's a 30% chance that you'll lose a person and that person becomes a Bone Witch. And I've already stated before that Bone Witch is one of the most difficult things to get rid of, and it can do good things, but the bad things are pretty bad, and it's more the fact that you don't have control over it is the issue. Like, there's good things, even the bad things can be kind of good in most cases, but the problem is those bad things make the Bone Witch come back, and when the Bone Witch shows up, it forces you to spend your endeavors on her, and that's the big issue. It costs you a bunch of endeavors. But otherwise, there's a 70% chance that you can get some stat increases as well as a permanent. You can get a secret fighting art, and Red Fist is actually a really good fighting art. But I went with the other thing, so instead, a feast. We're instead going to do lantern branding, a feast culminating in the ritual branding of the settlement's finest warriors by the heat of an agitated lantern. Discard half the settlement's total resources, including storage, round it down. Nominate a survivor and roll in the table below. Okay. So, for this one, who should we nominate? Kind of tempted to nominate Flandra for all this. Let's see, what are the possible results? Speed, strength, blinded and get luck, or just everyone gets maxed out survival. Okay. Well, Alice already has 1 luck. I honestly wouldn't mind bulking up Flandra at this point. She's definitely going to be proficient in Axe. Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and nominate Flandra. And we're going to have to spend half our resources. I'll get rid of a monster bone because I know I have pattern recognition. 1d10. 8. That got us a +1 permanent strength, branded hand. So there you go, Flandra. +1 strength. So that's going to be rather good for her. And that is pretty much it. That is it for the story events, and now we can go ahead and do our endeavors. There's really not much we can do. We can't innovate because we don't have any resources. We would actually have 6 innovations if we had done the other way around, but that's okay. Not much we can do. We can either search for scrap, or we can do intimacies. And honestly, I'd rather do intimacies, so let's go ahead and knock those out. Let's get Rumia. Or we can get Flandra to do it. I mean, she might as well, because she's probably going to be going on a hunt soon. So I'll tell you what, we'll go Flandra. So 1d10. First one gives her +1 survival, not a big deal. I upped it twice because the first one is because I named her. Next one, we get rid of 1 resource. And that will give Flandra +1 understanding. At this point, we don't have any supplies left to sacrifice to get any more understanding, so that's pretty much it for that. We have 5 endeavors left, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is just have Remilia handle the rest of the auguries. So since she has 3 or higher understanding, that's going to give +1 to the result. Alright, intimacy. I'm going to go ahead and it's going to be Patchouli and one of the insane male survivors. Oh, I rolled 2d10 for this. Oh my gosh, alright. That's not good. Alright. I'll go ahead and read this because it's tragic, I guess. Story events. Intimacy. So, I'll tell you right now, that's a 1 in 100 chance. Double ones. Alright, the couple cannot bear the weight of the world. They clasp hands and march into the deep and endless darkness. The dominated survivors are dead. Telling those two have been the ones that have been screwing this entire time, it's, I guess it's kind of makes sense. But that result actually gets us back to endeavors. So we kind of just hit even, but we're now down even more population. We're down to 2 males, which is the biggest issue. Alright, goodbye, Patchouli. Alright, well, the only thing we can really do is try to get our population back up. There is a benefit for having low population for a particular event, but honestly, I'm not going for that. Alright, so we'll go ahead and keep doing auguries. We have 7 endeavors again, so 1. Okay, that's another intimacy. Mei Ling. We're going to go Mei Ling and the other insane male survivor. So 2d10. Okay, this time we could do something with this. So this is going to get us twins, or a pair of survivors. Yeah, it's going to get us 2 survivors, so that's that. I'm actually going to go ahead and make them both male, so we can get that taken care of. There we go. That's just going to ensure that we have at least some breeding stock. Okay. From there, we got 6 endeavors left, so let's go ahead and keep going. That's another intimacy. And that is another pair of survivors. Okay. I'll update that in a bit. Okay, next one. That is a 5 +1 survival, not a big deal. Go ahead and cap that out. Okay, next. Next one. That is +1 understanding if we had any resources left. We don't. We could try to get some resources first, but honestly, I'm not that picky about it right now. +1 survival again. Here you go, Remilia. And 2 more. +1 survival and +1 survival. Okay, and that is it. We're back up to a population of 16 in total. We have two females we need to name. I'm not too worried about it right now. There's not really much else we can do, to be honest. So let's just figure out who we're going to send on to the next hunt and go from there. It's probably going to be an antelope. I think that's definitely something we're going to be dealing with. Biggest issue, of course, is we don't have a full suit of armor anymore. The other issue, of course, is that Monster Tooth necklace is no longer getting its full benefit. Same thing for the sword, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's a thing that's happening. But what we can do. Kokum is dead, by the way. We need to update that. There you go. 6 dead for this new thing that's been going on. All right. So right now, Monster Tooth Necklace isn't going to give as much of a benefit. We're going to have at least one person going in with the Skullcap Hammer. Probably going to be Alice. She has the highest crit chance. Actually, does Remilia have a crit chance? No, she doesn't. She uses guitars. Okay, well, we can take Remilia with us. And she can sport the guitars. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to get 2 red tabs, unfortunately. Technically, I can get +1 luck. If we do a setup kind of like this. But I also kind of don't want to do that. Alright, Rumia, you're going to go hang out. Let's take Alice with us. I did change the portrait for Alice, gave her something a little bit more mature, I guess. Alright, no more of you. And of course, we're going to take Flandra. So we just need to figure out their gear and go from there. Alright, Alice, Remilia. Kokuma is dead. Rumia and Flandra. Rumia is going to be doing support stuff mainly. She can't get survival, so really she's just kind of there to help a little bit. I mean, with that, I guess with that in mind, we can do something like this because it doesn't really matter about the full set anymore. In fact, it doesn't really matter for Flandra. Flandra doesn't need armor because she's immortal right now. So, that should be fine. Yeah, sure, that works. So what this does, like she's not going to be using the sword. What she's going to be using is the +1 luck from the luck stone here. The lucky charm here gives +1 luck if you happen to get 2 blue connections, which is what we have for both the Rawhide Hitband and the Cat Eye Circlet. So that will stack on top of the 1 luck she already has. So that means she'll crit on 8, 9s, and 10s. And the Skullcap Hammer in multiple locations on a antelope will give us +2 luck as well. So that means we'll crit on 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Yeah. So 50% chance to crit with every attack. And we're going to go ahead and take advantage of that. Everyone else, I think, is good to go. Shattered Jaw, not a big deal. Just making sure everything's up and running. Update all of this. Alright, this will be who we depart with. Remilia is still going to be practicing with her guitars. Flandra's going to go axe. Rumia, You can go bow for all I care, it doesn't matter. Alice, you can actually go club. I think that's fine for her. Alice is going to get +1 survival from her boots, +1 and 2 survival from departing. So that'll get her to 3. Rumia is not going to get any. Flandre's going to get maxed out. Remilia will get maxed out. Rumia is stuck with what she has. Okay, I think this will work out. And the +1 accuracy that Rumia has will help with hitting with that arrow. So I think that's really kind of our best bet. I'll go ahead and remove Lantern Frenzy and all of this. We're not going to need any of this anytime soon. Okay, so we'll go after an Antelope. It'll be a little risky, but what isn't for this particular group, unfortunately. We can get a helmet onto well, not on Flandre. We can get a helmet onto Remilia, and that'll help a little bit. And we'll go ahead and give her a Bone Blade just in case something happens. If her insanity if she becomes uninsane, she won't be able to use that cleaver. But I'm hoping to wreck things with that cleaver and get a bunch of crits in with Alice and just go from there. The bad news is Alice is also our support as far as the circlet's concerned, but it is what it is. Alright, let's go ahead and call this a video. I am TheDeBrestior, and this was Kingdom Death Monster. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see how things go from here.